G'day viewers, welcome back to another video. I hope this is one that you guys enjoy. Today I've got a whole pile of ram fingers, and I think they're mostly ram fingers. There might be some from other things, but basically these ones are all ineg gold. Okay, now as I've stated in my other videos, I'm not really sure how to explain it to you, but basically normal gold plating is like gold leaf that's glued onto the surface. It's a rough way of explaining it. But ineg gold, the best way I can describe it is it's like painted on. It's different to the normal gold plating. I've trimmed these as close as I can get to the gold. The reason why I'm going to process them in the way that I am today is because I have tried doing these in AP and it never seems to come off properly. I always need to put it back in the AP and then put it back in the AP after I squirt it again and then put it back in the AP again, and so on, and it never really gets it all. The same when I do a nitric acid soak. I still see bits of it on there. So today I'm going to just put these straight into aqua regia. Now the reason why I've trimmed them as close as I can is to get as clean a liquid solution as I can. There's going to be copper in there where the green is. There's always a copper base on the circuit boards, and then the gold is on top of the copper. I want to minimize as much as I can the amount of copper that goes in the solution, but there still will be quite a bit. And by trimming them as close as I can, it sort of enables me to get a cleaner solution. Now these ones here, these aren't from ram cut sticks, they're from TVs. You see where there's gold, then there's not, then there's gold, then there's not, then there's gold, then there's not. That's where the tabs were connected to them, which is also connected to the screen. And there's still minute parts in there, but mostly it's disappeared, it's come off. So there'll still be little bits in there, that's why I left them like that. I don't know how much I'm going to get out of all this, but this is the best way I know of to process them. So I'm going to use this big beaker, and you might think it's a bit of overkill, but the only reason I want to use such a big beaker is so that I can lay these down as best as I can on the bottom, because if I was to use a smaller, narrow beaker, I would have to stand them up, which means I would need a lot of solution to cover them all. This way I can lay them flat and not use as much solution. So I'm just snapping these, make sure that they fit. And put all these in there. The longer ones I have to snap. Most of these are going to fit just nicely. It would be alright if I was doing a nitric bath, because most of it would be water, but I'm going straight to aqua regia, so I don't want to make a really large batch. I'm all about saving money on chemicals where possible. Many of you would know that from all my other videos. So that's about as flat as I can get them. Now I'm going to put my gloves on. Put some hydrochloric acid in there to cover all that, and then a little bit of nitric, so we'll get there in a minute. Okay, got my gloves on. Please, people, when doing this type of thing, when you're working with any acids, please use your gloves and other protective gear, It's a fun hobby, but no need to get hurt in the process when a simple what do you call it? Can't think of the word. PPE can be used. You know, enough about lecturing. So I've put the hydrochloric acid in, enough to cover everything. And in case you haven't seen my other videos, if you're a newbie, you only need the tiniest bit of nitric acid. So I've got a pipette here which is only half full. So I'm going to put that in there. And if I need more, I can always add it. If you put too much, you can't take it back. And the number one reason why people have trouble dropping their gold is because they've got too much nitric acid in there. So always just start with a tiny amount, unless you're doing ounces of gold, and just go by that. So I'll be able to see when all the gold is missing off the fingers. Also, I'll be putting a lid on top, which will cause the fumes to hover in here. And when the fumes go away and there's no more fumes, then I'll know that all the nitric that was in there has been used. And I can add drop by drop and see if there's any more reaction. If I add a few drops in there and there's no more reaction, then I'll know that there's no more gold to work, to dissolve. And I can stop, so that way I won't have too much nitric in there. So always just use a little bit to start with. Now I'm going to put the lid on. Just a simple plate will do the trick. And put it on some heat. So I'll put it on, I don't want it really hot, but this plate, this particular burner takes a fair bit to get hot, so 5 is maximum. I'm going to put it on about 3.5. 3, yeah, it's on 3. So that should be enough, because you don't want it boiling, you only want it to get warm hot. So acids always work better with heat. And I can always turn it up or turn it down as it goes. So now it's a waiting game. I'll come back when there's something to show you. Well, it's just occurred to me that I forgot to get a start weight, and I'm sorry for that. I was too excited about my new oxygen LPG setup that I got, getting it all set up together, and wasn't thinking straight, so I apologise for that. Anyway, let's carry on. I've had it going for about half an hour now, and as you can see just there, there's still some gold, and in the light I can see on these fingers there's still gold on them. So I'm going to need to put just a touch of more nitric acid. I'm only going to put about 2 or 3 drops. Seriously, you don't need a whole lot of nitric acid to dissolve gold. Better off doing small amounts at a time. Well, it's getting a bit hard to tell because it's getting dark now and I can't quite see if all the gold has gone, but it looks like it might have. It might be just still a bit on in there. So I'm going to need a couple more drops of nitric acid. You can see most of this strip here has gone, but there's still a bit of gold on the end there. And it's getting late now, so I'm going to turn it off for the night. Come back tomorrow and I'll put a few more drops in there, and I'll give it a good stir, and I'll look at some more fingers in there and have a look and see how they're doing. But knowing there's gold on the end there, I definitely need a few more drops. I'll continue this tomorrow. Last night when I turned the solution off, I put 5 drops of nitric acid in there while it was hot, so it would work overnight. So now I'm going to have a look and check all these boards. I don't know if it's showing up on camera, but I can still see gold on this one. Yeah, there's a lot of gold on there still. So I'm going to have to submerge these again, push them down, break them if I need to. Some of them are sticking up out of the solution. Okay, so now they're all down in the solution. I've got to squirt my hands off, and then I'll put some more nitric in there. So I need 2 hands. There's still a lot of gold in there, so I'm going to put half a pipette. And put the lid back on, turn the heat back on again, and give it a few hours and see. Okay, so the solution has been on all day. I won't be able to pick up the fingers to see if there's any gold because it's hot. So all I can do is stir it and just try and pull them out of the solution like that. And have a look. Looks like there's still some gold. You see on ones like that there. It's hard to tell, but there could be gold on those. I'm going to put a little bit more nitric acid in there. If I have to, I can denox it later. But that's the problem with ineg gold, it's very hard to get. I find it is anyway. So I'm going to put some more in it if I end up over nitricing. See that one there sticking out? See if I can get that one, hang on. Definitely gold on there. And I'll let it sit. I'm going to put another half a pipette. It only picks up half at a time, and then I'm going to fill it up again. And put another half a pipette, so that's a full pipette. And I'll let it sit. Okay, so it's the following day. I haven't had the heat on today because it's a fairly warm day and the sun was shining on it most of the day. So now, see if I can have a look, find any with gold on them. See, there's still some gold on there, and if I rub it with my finger, it's not coming off. I find these ineg golds so hard to do. Every single time I've tried putting it, this one is full of it, look. Every time I've put them in AP, I've had to put it back 2, 3, 4 times. Every time I've tried using nitric acid, it just keeps having to go back again and again and again. There's a lot of gold on these still. So I'm going to squirt my hand off, get all the solution off my hand, and then put some more nitric acid in there. I'm going to put a full pipette, and I'll do that now. So I just put another pipette in there, and I'll turn the heat back on to let it cook and see how that goes. I know this isn't gold related, but you guys like to know about my birds, so this is the next generation. He is 9 days old. Yes, we've taken him from the mum. That might be a bit cruel, but we've done it because we're going to hand rear him, or her. He's carrying on like he's hungry, but he should still have a bit of food in his crop. Yeah, he's hungry. So he's going to get a bit of a feed. What we do is we use a spoon.
It's up there.
And we spoon feed him. I'll show you when she does it. Give you a good look at him. You put him on a skewer and make a nice little birdie roast. Yeah, food's coming. Food's coming. Yeah, don't fall out of my hand. Oh, I need to turn the camera off. Food's coming. Food's coming. Wait. He's trying to fly. He can't go anywhere. Your food's coming.
Ready? Okay.
What we've done is we bent the spoon. So I don't know if you can see the end of that to funnel it in. There you go, the next generation. Okay, well it's been, I think, day 4 now. This is getting ridiculous taking this long. But that's what happens with ineg. So it's time to inspect. And I still see some gold. Some of it could probably rub off, so I'll just try. Nope. It's going to take more nitric acid, I think. Some of these have got a lot of gold. See if I can get to them. I see them in the pile. And what I planned to do today was to take out any that are done. But I can still see little bits of gold on all of them. Some of them have got quite a lot. See if I can find one that's got a lot. I can see them in there, but not where I can just grab it. They're usually right in the middle of the pile. I'm getting close. A lot of them are a lot better off than what they were. I still see a lot of gold in this one. I'm going to put more nitric acid in, put it back on heat and give it another day. So they're all covered now. Rinse my hand off, and I'm back in a second again. Alright, in goes half a pipette. And I'll put another one in since it's taken so long, another half a pipette. And then give that a stir, mix it around, put it on heat, and try tomorrow. Hopefully they'll be done tomorrow. Alright, so I've temporarily moved everything to that beaker because I needed my large beaker. Now what I'm going to do is pour off this solution. I'm more than certain that there's enough nitric acid in there to have dissolved all the gold, and I'm going to pour this off and then manually inspect all the fingers, and if there's any that have still got gold on them, well then I'll sort that out separately. But this here, I'm not going to put any more nitric acid in there. It's going to need to be denoxed, I can tell. So I need 2 hands for this. I'm going to rinse this beaker out. I'll do that now and I'll come back. Okay, I've rinsed all these off, gotten all the gold solution out, and I can't see any whatsoever that even have the tiniest bit of gold. So I'd say these are all done. These can be thrown away now, and I'm going to denox this with sulfamic acid. And in order to do that, I need it hot. So I'm going to put the lid on it and I'm going to turn the temperature right up. Not boiling, not 5, I'll get it 4 and get it hot so I can denox it. Okay, now that the solution is hot, as you can see there's steam coming off, I'll put my sulfamic acid in. You don't need to put a lot in at first. Put a little bit to see how it reacts. There's not even much of a reaction. So that's a good thing. but you don't go solely on the reaction, because I've been fooled that way before. What you need to do is to put some in and then wait 5 or 10 minutes and come back, see if it's all dissolved. If there's still some in there, then that's good. If it's all dissolved, then put a bit more, and you want to keep going until you've got just a little bit in excess. You don't need to waste it, just want to make sure there's a tiny bit in excess. So I'll come back in 5 minutes or so and see how it's gone. Well, it turns out that I didn't over nitric after all, because you can see there's some sulfamic acid at the bottom which didn't dissolve, and there was no reaction when I put it in there. So now I've taken the lid off. I'm just going to let this cool down. I don't have any ice blocks, unfortunately, so it's going to have to let this cool down, and then I can filter it. Okay, it's time to filter the solution. So I'm going to grab a clean funnel and a clean beaker, and we'll go outside. Okay, I've got my lab filter set up. Before anybody asks me what filters I have, I can't read Chinese, so if you can read that, more power to you. I've got my solution over here, and I'm going to start filtering the solution. It's going to take me a while with a little filter like this, but that's what I'm going to do. Sorry, I had to put the phone down so I could rinse off the drops off the end of the beaker there. So I'll just keep doing that, topping it up as it goes down. Once I've filtered it all, then it's time to precipitate the gold. The gold has all been filtered now. Mixing up some SMB in water. Normally you would double the quantity of your solution with water. So however much solution it is, you'd add that much water. But there's already a lot of rinse water in there from rinsing out the beaker. So I'm just going to pour this in. Oh, there was a bit of an excess nitric after all. That's alright, the SMB will eat that up. You see that gold, that brown colour? That's the gold being dissolved and then precipitated and then redissolved. So I'm going to need to add more SMB until I stop seeing that happen, because as it precipitates with the SMB, the excess nitric that's in there is redissolving it. If you see that and you're trying to drop your gold and you're wondering why it's not dropping, that's the reason. And while that's happening, you'll never drop your gold. So I'll just mix up some more SMB and we're back. And we'll try again. Now, some of this isn't dissolved, so I'll end up squirting that in there, and it will eventually dissolve in the solution. You see it's still happening. See the brown? So the gold is coming out and going back into solution. I'm doing it slowly so I don't get a runaway reaction. I'm really puzzled as to why the sulfamic acid didn't denox the solution. Every single time I do this, it either reacts, dissolves, and then I keep putting more until it stops dissolving, or nothing happens like this one and it just sits in the bottom. There was even sulfamic acid crystals in the filter when I filtered it all. I'm running out of room in the beaker, so I may just have to put SMB powder in by itself, which I don't like doing. And what I might do is I'll squirt the rest of that in there, And if I haven't seen the gold precipitate, I'll put it on heat later, drive off the chlorine, and put a bit more sulfamic in there. This is good for people to see that, you know, things can go wrong for everybody. So if you're having mistakes, you're having problems, you're not the only person that has them. So I'll squirt this in there. I need 2 hands. Well, it's still happening, so I'm going to evaporate it down. Probably about there somewhere, to make room for more water and SMB, and it should drive off a lot of the chlorine gas. I think it's chlorine gas, whatever the what's it called? I got a mind blank at the moment. I can't quite think the name of it. The potent gas that's coming off it. I don't think it's chlorine. It's something else. I just can't think off the top of my head. Nitrous oxide or some rubbish. I reduced the solution down to about here, and then I topped it back up with some more sodium metabisulfite in water. But before I did that, I put some more sulfamic acid in there, and on really hot dissolved it. And I don't know how well you're going to be able to see, but there's sediment in the bottom. So now I'm going to filter the solution. There's definitely some sediment in there, see? There's also some floating on top. So I'm going to filter that now, and I've done a test on the liquid. There's no gold in solution, so I'm good to go. So what I did was I poured the solution through the filter to catch all the surface gold, and then once I got to just clear solution, I poured it into my vessel, which I always pour my gold wash into. Any small pieces that go on across will settle in the bottom, and each of my washes now will go into there. And what I've done is I've put one of 3 lots of hot water in there to wash it. It's settled out quite nicely, so when the kettle boils, I'll pour this into the flask and put a second wash and then a third. I'll come back to you when I'm done my third. Okay, so this is the third hot water wash going in. I know some people say you use way too much water. I know some people, like the eBay refiner, only use a tiny amount, but water costs what? Hardly anything. I'd prefer to know that I'm diluting everything, getting everything out that doesn't need to be there. Alrighty, time to pour this off and do a hydrochloric acid boil. I'll just pour it off, I'll come back. Okay, so put some hydrochloric acid in. You don't need a whole lot. That should be plenty. Just let that boil for a while. I'll put the lid on so it doesn't evaporate, and it helps it get hotter too. About an hour is what I usually boil it for, and then I do 3 water washes to try and get rid of all the hydrochloric acid. So anything that's in there that shouldn't be there will hopefully be dissolved with the hydrochloric acid. It's been boiling now for about an hour, and as you can see by the colour of the solution, there's definitely something that's been dissolved, which is the whole point of this hydrochloric acid bath. So now we'll turn it off, let it cool down and settle, pour it off and wash away. Alright, so I poured out the hydrochloric acid, and now I'm putting the first of another 3 water washes to try and get rid of all that hydrochloric acid. Ready for wash number 2. I should also point out that although it looked like there's a lot of gold on the boards, you need to know that ineg gold is nowhere near as much as plated gold. So if they were fairly new fingers with all the nice foils that peel off, there'd be a lot more gold than there was with the ineg. And you can see that in the bottom here. There's not a lot in there. So anyway, I'll do the second wash. And by the time we do the third one, that water should be nice and clear. If not, I'll do a fourth. So I'm going to pour this last one, second last one off. You still see there's some SMB sediment on top. That's why the water's cloudy. So what I'm going to do is after this one I'm going to do lots of small rinses and swirl it around and really wash it well. And instead of letting it settle where all this SMB is settling down, I'm going to try and catch it while it's in suspension. There's not a whole lot of gold in there. I wasn't expecting a whole lot because I know that ineg doesn't give you much. You see the white SMB trying to escape now, but just in case there's gold amongst that, I'll leave that there for now. I'll do little I'll leave that here. I'll do little rinses. If I let it sit for just a second, the heavy gold should stop. And I'll be able to pour off the SMB. I don't know if you can see, but all the SMB is going down. And there's really not a lot of gold in there. So what I'm going to do, there's not enough here to dry and weigh. And my next video that I'm doing is about refining. So I'm just going to add this to there and refine it. So I know it doesn't help you guys now, you want to see a yield, but there's really not much there to show you. So you don't get a lot from ineg gold. I wouldn't go out of your way to save it. I wait till I've got a lot of it before I do it. I certainly wouldn't want to do a small amount. What I did on the video was even too small. I wait till I've got 4 or 5 kilos of it usually. I just had the small amount and I thought I'll do a video on it. So anything less than a couple of kilos, you're really wasting your time. So anyway, I hope that helps some people. You'll see the final result with all the rest of the gold that I'm refining in my next video. So until then, thanks for watching, and I'll see you then.